Okay.
Yeah, no, I looked at this too.
These reviews are killer. Richard Roper.
Oh, that was my favorite one. It's like one line.
It's just nasty.
Thanks for putting in that word, Richard.
Hey there, boils and ghouls. Welcome to this week's episode of Halloweekly. Nick Rollins here with
George Haley.
And today we are doing another How Low Can We Go? We are at 49% with The Hills Have Eyes. If you don't know what that is, how low can we go?
49%.
49%. We started at Rotten Tomatoes, 59%, working our way down 1 percentage point at a time, seeing how low we can go until finding good horror films each peg of the way.
Or we don't. And
then we don't. We're one. That's why. How low can we go? Is what point do we hit a film that sucks? And good news is we're not there.
We are not there yet.
So this is the 10th one.
We're still doing good.
This is the 10th one with The Hills Have Eyes remake, 2006.
Yep. So interesting fact.
Yeah.
Hills Have Eyes original, directed by Wes Craven.
Mm-hmm.
Rotten Tomatoes rating 64%. Fresh.
Really?
Yes. And that's going to be controversial from my point of view because I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this remake is better than the original.
I think I'm going to agree with you. He produced this one, so it's like he was like all like about it and shit. Okay.
Yeah, no, I looked at this too.
These reviews are killer. Richard Roper.
Oh, that was my favorite one. It's like one line.
It's just nasty.
Thanks for putting in that work, Richard Roper. And I was dissuaded from watching it. I was like, you know what? You know what I don't want in my horror films? Nasty. I want polite.
If it's a horror film, could you get some paper towels and put them on the floor?
Yeah. I want the characters behaving themselves. Richard Roper is right.
Please don't be nasty.
No.
Don't be nasty.
Don't.
Not in The Hills Have Eyes. Not in the cannibal fucking the desert film.
Cannibal mutant desert film.
Where's your fork and knife in this film?
Right, exactly.
Let's see here. See, you know what's funny though? To
counterpoint that, you had to
counterpoint that. From Strange, from Roger Moore, not the late actor of the Orlando
R.I.P.
Sentinel.
Roger Moore.
These hills are more to be endured than enjoyed.
Yeah,
that's a fresh review. That's why I'm confused.
Yeah.
I'm like, thanks.
Thanks for that.
Thanks, Moonraker.
Right.
Oh, here's our guy. Okay.
Oh, this guy keeps showing up.
He has to show up at every episode.
Yeah.
I don't know where he's going to land. I want him.
We need a voice actor to like reenact this guy now at this point for every episode.
Okay, well, it's Steve Newton from the Georgia Straight.
Yes.
So I'll do Steve's voice.
Okay.
No. On the strength of the 2003 slasher flick, High Tension, Craven hired writer Alexandra Aja and writer Gregory Lavassier. And the result is one of the most exhilarating, intense, and engrossing Hollywood shockers ever made. See, I don't feel comfortable doing that voice because he probably sounds just like a fucking normal guy. But he gave it a 4 out of 5. This guy, I want to have out of all the critics.
We got to have him on. He's all over the map. He's like the drunk driver of critics.
I love this guy. Like some of the films we reviewed, he's like, piece of shit. But this one, he gave it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah,
and sorry for the voice if you hear this episode, but I want to have him on the show because this guy is he's interesting. One more rotten one here. Rob Gonslave. I feel like we did that guy. efilmcritic.com. It's self-conscious nastiness. Once removed from its motivating source.
Yeah,
are they talking about the?
No, he's writing a dissertation. That's pretty deep. That's pretty. Let me give you this headline from Medium.com. You ready? The Hills Have Eyes. Hicksploitation done right.
I like that. I like that.
So, but you know, whatever. Fuck the critics. So here's
except for the guy from the Georgia Straight, I'm starting to like him.
Right.
Yeah. Sure.
Here's the interesting thing, though. I think so. We're doing the How Low Can We Go series. We started at 59%. We're descending down to 0, trying to find good horror movies all the way. In every case from 59, 58, 57, etc. down to here, we have picked movies where either I haven't seen it or you haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, you and I have both seen this movie now twice.
Yeah.
At least, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've only seen it twice.
Twice.
Twice. Okay. So this is going to be interesting because this is the first like rewatch. How low can we go?
True.
Episode, right? So what's your second view on Hills Have Eyes remake?
It was actually the movie clocks in at like an hour 48. The movie felt faster than last time. I just felt like it moved quicker than the last time I remember watching it. I could have sworn there was like more time of them like being like completely fucked in the desert and figuring out what to do.
Okay.
But in this one, it seemed like after their vehicle got disabled, things just kind of picked up and moved kind of quick.
So momentum, you weren't bored. There weren't
and that's the thing that I want to get into later was like the pacing of it. Like there was no slow parts. It was like once shit got real, it's like it was just constant. It was like waves of fuck you until you got to the end of the film.
So there was like setting up the characters so that you cared about them. This is a good cast, we can agree.
Yeah.
And then when shit goes sideways, it's no filler after that.
It's like a video game where like waves of enemies comes. Like the first wave comes, you
awesome.
take them down. You're like, okay, that wasn't bad. Then the second wave comes. You're like, that got a little tougher. Then like the fourth and fifth wave comes, and you're like, fuck, this is getting tough. That's what the movie felt like.
That is a great way to describe that. Because that's exactly what I felt. I felt like this movie had momentum, right? And one of the things that I wanted to get into was the fact that you can't have this thing both ways, right? So here we are in the era of everyone complaining about Poltergeist 2015 and Bye Bye Man and PG-13 horror sucks and everything's tamed down and everything's like whatever. And you've got this like this biker gang fucking movie comes out of the blue. It's like R-rated horror. Like there's guns getting held to babies' heads. There's shit that's not right. And everyone complained about that. Like you can't complain about both these things at the same time. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's one or the other, right? So the only way you can complain about it is if the movie's doing it to no purpose, like it's just doing it to do it, to torture you, right? It's this movie's like a kid pulling the wings off flies, or it's not well made. But this movie has a purpose, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
And it's well made. So you can't complain about this shit, right? Like this is...
Yeah,
if you don't like this movie, you like Bye Bye Man. So have fun.
Yeah, and this was part of like... I was thinking about like that 2006, like 2003 to 2007-ish era of horror films. And like this was like when... Like, I think maybe Texas Chainsaw sort of kicked it off, like, with the remake stuff. And then this came along. And I remember everyone was sort of like, oh, the Hills Have Eyes remake. And then it came out, and I was like, well, fuck, that was like... To me, like, this is in the same ballpark as the Texas Chainsaw remake. Where, like, people are like...
Or Evil Dead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they adore the original, and they still, like... They want to say they prefer it, but they know that this was better. Like, that's how I feel about Texas Chainsaw. Like, I loved the 70s version, but... This fucking 03 version is my jam. Right. I feel like the Hills Have Eyes does this for the 70s version.
See, now, I feel like Texas Chainsaw, the original, is better just because it's perfect in what it is. But, like, I get that point of... That's the weird thing to me is when you kind of, like, break out what's happening with remakes. There was this... really, really brief flare-up of remakes that had bad intentions, this is one of them. And the Texas Chainsaw one was too. And then it all went to shit.
Yeah.
Right? And all the remakes became like Nightmare on Elm Street remakes.
Yeah, because in the next year, Halloween came out.
Right, yep, right, exactly, right. And this was like that kind of like that last hurrah of that thing. And the other
That's a good way to put it.
About this is... I'm really interested in this director because like I'm always on the lookout for like who's the next best director of things, right? Like what's his name? Neil Marshall, the guy who did Dog Soldiers and The Descent, right? Like, he's probably one of the best directors working right now, right? But Alexander Aja, this guy is a really interesting case because he did High Tension, which is a great movie with a terrible ending, right? Mm-hmm. And then he did this movie, which is like, I think one of the better remakes that's ever been done in horror. And then he did, well, this probably isn't chronological, but he did Horns.
Oh, with Daniel Radcliffe.
Right.
Cool.
Which right, exactly. Cool. Said exactly that way is exactly how I feel about that movie.
Yeah, I never saw it. But
no, but
I only watched the clip because they're like, watch Daniel Radcliffe talking in an American accent.
But that's the thing is, like, there's some he's great with shots and framing shots and some stuff, but like he's like upper second tier, right? So the question is, what makes a director upper second tier and not like solid first tier, right? And I feel like that's where this guy is. He's like upper second tier, which means, so the whole principle behind the How Low Can We Go series is we're trying to find movies that deserve better ratings than what they have, right? Mm-hmm. So like a Neil Marshall horror movie should be 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, right? But this guy's horror movie should be like 75% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Which is about where this is in my head.
Yeah, like
right?
I think 70, yeah, in between like 72, 75. Like,
right.
If you know what if you know what you're getting into.
Totally.
Then that's right.
Because it's not perfect. There's some cool scenes, there's some crap, but so here's another thing that
it's got the girl from Hocus Pocus.
Oh yeah, but okay. So here's the thing. Like you're a video editor, so this is like I really wanted to like kind of like hash this out with you because this is so interesting to me. Horror remakes are so bland now, and horror movies like are bland. Like even the good ones, like Don't Breathe, right? Mm-hmm. That, like I can remember maybe one shot, the overhead opening shot.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it's kind of like a muddle in my head because they're kind of going through they're hitting those beats and doing like whatever. Like there are iconic shots in this fucking movie. Like in the original movie, they just lose control of their vehicle. In this one, those spikes come up.
Yeah.
Right? And then they pop out the tires of the RV and then they drag out. And it's such a great visual. Like those things, like you're not seeing who has them, who's holding them. They're just laying in the dirt and then
they slide back out. Yeah.
They just slide. It's such a great shot, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's another shot, which is so fascinating to me because when the mutants invade the trailer, the one guy, he holds the gun to the baby's head and he puts his hand on Vanessa Shaw's Hocus Pocus girl face.
Yeah.
Right? And it was such a cool shot that they turned it into the poster. But if you look at the poster...
They flip it, yeah.
They flip it where it's like she's horizontal on the ground. Mm-hmm. They literally turned the image sideways for the poster. They knew it was a great image, but they didn't want it the way it was, right?
Yeah.
Because it's iconic. Like there are iconic shots in this movie, mm-hmm. right? One of my favorite shots of the whole thing is when the mutant is confronting the guy who fights back the hardest, the best, the guy with the glasses, and he's so beaten down at the end, he's just on his knees and he holds up a screwdriver.
Oh, I loved that part.
And the other guy's like, the mutant is like laughing and he puts his axe down next to it and the camera pulls back and you got the guy on his knees and the tall, huge mutant and like you got him holding his screwdriver up and you got the other guy holding his axe down and he just kind of like brushes his hair.
Like fucks with them, yeah.
Right, whatever. And the shot is like, I would frame that.
Dude, I like that part gave me, it's going to sound nerdy, but it gave me chills.
Right?
Because I just, the guy went through so much shit. Yep. And I love that he was like, nope, even with the fucking screwdriver, I'm gonna like. I just love that kind of like heart that they gave the guy. He's like, no,
totally.
You killed my wife. You got my kid. Yep. Like, there's nothing that's gonna. I
gotta get my baby back.
Nothing is gonna stop me. And totally. I was like, oh fuck yes.
Yep.
I love that fucking part.
Yeah, and that was like the thing was the obvious thing of the movie is that the mutants represent kind of anarchy, and the civilized family represents civilized people who are just as anarchic as the mutants. You just got to push them far enough, right? So they're standing in this perfect room with the perfect mannequins representing the perfect American 50s family.
Yeah.
Like the wife wears the apron and cooks the pies and, you know, like whatever. And everything's like shit, like blood and terror and like none of it matches like whatever. And you got the civilized guy fighting back. And then what screams civilization to like Western culture? Like shave and a haircut, right? And the guy with the axe is like, I'm gonna fuck with your hair. I'm gonna fuck with your hair. I'm gonna mess it up. Right before I kill you, I'm just gonna mess it up. It was like such a good touch in the mannequin setting. Like you don't get to have perfect hair in my house. And then he just like screwdrivers his foot to the floor and like makes it happen, which is like, I mean, it was really good.
The only thing I didn't like about that part, and then like I got like some shit throughout the film I liked, was the whole "you made us this way" speech
terrible.
from the guy.
Oh my god, terrible.
I was like, oh, fucking spare me, dude.
The guy in
like,
the chair?
Yeah. I was like, oh, if they just cut that line out, like, we know why you're there. We get that whole thing.
God,
you don't have to explain it to us like we're fucking four.
That had to be a producer thing, right? Because that was like so talking down to the audience.
Someone, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where that line came from. I didn't think it was that great. But that was the part that just annoyed the shit out of me.
Yeah, that was pretty terrible. And then like but for the same reason, the newspaper clipping scene was terrible to me because it was the same like exposition dump, you know, kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
That was like a thing. The guy in the
that kind of shit,
terrible.
Yeah, I don't like that stuff. I did like though. I keep thinking the guy was a cop, but he was just a driver and then wanted to be a private investigator.
Yes.
Because when I liked the part I did like about that is when he opened up the takeout box and had the ear in it, he knew not to like make anything of it too drastic and like play it cool.
That was awesome.
I liked that whole thing.
Totally.
And the scene right after when the guy on the shitter blew his brains out. I like that whole like daddy like scene that they did. Like that would freak me out.
Totally.
My biggest gripe with the film is how, I mean, it kind of makes sense because I think that was intentional. The guys who talked about how great the guns were, horrible shots.
Terrible.
Like,
that was terrible.
Like he was just shooting into the fucking wild. Like
that was terrible.
I hated that. Like anytime a character does that, I'm like, no one's that fucking stupid. Like everyone. Like,
yes.
Like I've never.
They really like they overdid the like. It was like a horror movie that they inserted Mr. Bean into. Because like every time you checked in on that guy in the beginning, he was like dropping a ventilator on his head or stubbing his toe.
Oh yeah, he was supposed to be like the incompetent.
Yeah, and you know they were setting it up where he was going to be like Rambo, like zombie killer, like throughout the rest of it. And I mean, they overdid it on the first part, and my biggest gripe is they overdid it on the second part because I found it totally unbelievable that this guy got his fingers chopped off by an axe and took the beating he took and then got his head pounded out on a rock.
I wrote that down while I wrote
at
the
the
film.
at the end, right?
And he was
still going. Like no.
He got knocked out 3 times.
Yeah, no.
Is there a horror film where a character gets knocked out more than 3 times?
No. I mean, no. It was too much of a beating. It was too. I mean, he basically turned into Michael Myers, but the good version.
Yeah, he kind of did.
Right. And I get that he was like, you know, the stand-in for like the kind of Wes Craven revenge motif of good people get revenge, a la Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
But like, you got to make it sort of physically plausible. Like that
his brain would have been.
No, he was done. It was over. His crowning moment, the best moment for him, was when he beat the big guy with the screwdriver and then reached down in the broken glass and picked up his glasses and put them back on. Mm-hmm. That was like the fuck you. I'm like, I can handle whatever you throw at me moment, right? Mm-hmm. And then he ambushed the other guy coming around the car, like the Mad Max dude. And I actually really like that scene only because once he had that dude on the ground, he had the axe in his hand and he flipped it to the spike side. And you were like, this ain't going to be good.
I wish that scene they would have just done like a little Sam Raimi shot.
Oh, totally.
So like when he flips it, the camera just zooms
Totally.
right on and this slams him.
That totally should have
I'm
been
gonna do a fan edit for that.
No,
That just
totally
just so we can see that and
right.
geek out.
But then after that, he was in this other fight with someone who like beat him down and smashed his head into some rocks. And like, I mean, no, it's too much at that point. They overdid how weak he was at the beginning, and they overdid how strong he was at the end. But like, I get how they got there. I just didn't like,
Yeah, no, I agree. What did you think about the intro? Not the title sequence, but like the radiologist people.
What do you mean?
I'm not sure if radiologist is the right term.
You mean the first murders?
Yeah, the first murders.
I actually really liked it. I liked the fact. So, I mean, it's a little obvious. It's a little obvious in terms of the visuals, but like when you think about what's happening here, the basic premise is that these miners have been done wrong by the government. And the big guy who's going to get bested by a little screwdriver at the end, the big guy is picking up one of the radiologists with a mining tool and just smashing him back and forth. And it's literally the same motion you would do to break rocks. Like he's basically just knowing what he knows how to do at work. It would be like it'd be like you video editing someone to death. It's like using what you know how to do to fight.
Well,
right?
Yeah,
so
but
I liked the visual.
But it had that's the thing. I wrote down. I loved the opening and like the music they did in the intro. The music throughout the rest of the film, though, I thought was kind of meh. But I was just thinking to myself, if I was editing the film, would I have had that opening scene with those guys getting killed, or just go straight to the thing, into the title sequence? Because it served no purpose. Yeah. Other than to like have some body count.
Yeah, maybe. Scares. I mean, I like the visual. I like the fact when they tied him up and dragged all the bodies off.
Okay, and I liked that, and I get that they were like.
I'm going to agree with you here. The opening sequence of Dawn of the Dead remake is like 50 times superior. Like it gives you a creepy vibe. It's got a great song. It's like
even before that, with the opening with the woman who works for the hospital. Mm-hmm. If you were to compare that scene to her going home to the husband and the zombie kid,
totally,
and that to The Hills Have Eyes version, because after that the credit sequence were the same. It didn't do near as good.
No, I agree with you there.
As that, I just wish it had more payoff. Like I get the symbolism of like they were radiated.
It just didn't. It didn't really take me out of it, just because You got to think about, so there's things that happen in this movie that are interesting to me. The gas station attendant, the first time you meet this guy,
he was almost sort of like the let the right one in kid.
Yeah, well, he's also sort of like the cabin in the woods guy, right? But he's like, so the first time you meet him, he's laying in bed. There's this desolate shot, which the thing I remember most out of the opening shot of the introduction to that whole gas station is all the fly strips, because they're gross.
It was disgusting.
So gross. And then the trees with all the bottles on them, like whatever. And there's some beautiful shots in there. Like it's a terrible wasteland of like whatever, but like it's shot really well. And the first time you meet him, he hears a sound and he gets up, but he is in his gas station uniform. Like this guy he doesn't own pajamas, dude. This guy is like
gross.
He's gross, but he's wearing a uniform, right? Mm-hmm. So like the mannequins look the way they did. The gas station guy's wearing his uniform. The miners have the tatters of their uniforms, right?
Yeah.
The radiology people are actually in the spiffiest uniforms of the whole movie, right? They're like the best dressed, newest issue uniforms.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who get taken out first. And I like that the people in like the deteriorating ragtag uniforms that represent trying to hold the line for what they used to be against what the government is trying to make happen. I like that they won that first battle, and they won it so violently and decisively.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. I'm probably reading too much into it, but it didn't take me out of it the way it was taking you out of it, just because it's not as good as other movies did it. But
well, to be fair, it didn't really take me out. The only reason I made that comparison is because they felt kind of similar, and that's just like what my brain went to. I didn't take like I still liked the shots and the music, and The music and like the shot at the end and the colors, like it just felt like hot desert. So,
but the uniform thing really caught my eye, and one of the things that I liked about the whole uniform motif of this was my favorite uniform moment of this movie is after their RV crashes in the desert. The plan is that Big Jim, whatever the fuck his name is gonna take the scrawny guy, and they're gonna walk, right? He literally, the dude looks at him, this broken car. Like, I'm not mechanical. This car is like Beetlejuice, like Picasso painting shaped like car, right? After it crashes. And he's like, what's the plan? We're going to fix it? And the guy's like, fix it?
I did like that. He
with
was
what?
Like, are you an idiot?
It's like, the axle's broke, the frame is twisted. Like, what am I going to fix this with? He's like, what's the plan? He's like, we're walking. So they're about to go walk, and then Vanessa Shaw comes over to her husband, and she's like, you got to put on this hat. He's like, I don't want to put on this hat. I look dumb in this hat. She's like, you're walking in the desert. We're in front of nobody. Like,
you're fine.
Put on a hat and shield your head from the sun. He's like, I don't want to put on the hat. Like, whatever. There's this weird uniform thing happening throughout like the whole thing that I thought was interesting and probably intentional. So I sort of like that.
Yeah. I did notice that the special effects were done by Greg Nicotero.
Yes. Totally. And I want to point out, because horror fans love to bash CGI, but the Ruby character, the girl who ends up saving the day at the end, because she kind of empathizes with the humans and not with her mutated clan.
Yeah.
They CGI'd her eyes to be like way farther apart than they should be. And it is gorgeous.
I didn't even notice.
It's not right. I know it doesn't, like, it's off-putting and it's like unsettling, but you don't know that that's digital. Like, I looked it up. I was like, that actress can't. Did they hire an actress whose eyes are like next to her ears? Like, what's happening here? And it was an effect. I'm like, CGI. I'm like, oh my God, good CGI in a horror movie. You would have,
See, it's not all bad, people.
It's not all bad. And it's not even obvious. It's just like there. And
I didn't even notice. And I've seen the movie twice.
And then she like runs for that running tackle and like, spoiler, tosses the last villain off the hill, and that's just such a beautiful shot. It was like a Red Riding Hood crossed with like a David Lynch shot. Like they were just falling.
I was waiting for Beast to like stand next to her and have like a Red Riding Hood and like big bad wolf like kind of looking thing. I was
That's
waiting
a great. Oh my God, that would have been amazing.
I was waiting for that shot. I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool, but never happened.
And Beast, by the way,
Beast was good.
Best dog ever.
Yeah,
right.
The other one got it way early. But Beast was like, I'm no body count.
No, and that's, talk about like the weird beauty of horror movies is I cannot get out of my mind the sight of the mutant who's in the chair, who literally calls in on his like CB fucking shit, telling people to kill the baby.
Oh yeah,
right before he goes down, right? Because he's still like, even though everything's gone wrong and the big guy's been killed, he's still like a malicious motherfucker, right?
Yeah.
And then Beast comes into the room and he's like looking at him, and then there's this shot where he's like sideways in his chair.
He's like kind of looking
at him. And
his
eye rolls. Like his head doesn't move, but his eye rolls, and you know that he knows he's dead. And it's just such a great shot.
I love that. That was a good like revenge.
Yeah, the visual to it is just like,
and it was shot cool. Like it was like kind of like wonky, out of focus, like behind, like
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like it was just like a sliver of his eye was in focus. It was it was a really cool shot. I did like how the only draw from the film, like for me, was like some of the music in it. Like, because it just had that like cheesy kind of orchestra, like fakey orchestra sound.
I never noticed shit like that. So
that took me out. That makes sense.
Well,
that's the same reason why the Texas Chainsaw remake is not like my favorite film of all time, because the music sounds sort of like that, and you're like,
that makes sense.
Takes you out. What did you not like about the film?
Well, okay, so most importantly, I didn't like that they overdid the killer glasses guy. I just thought that was way like, it just took me out of the movie, because there's no way you can take that amount of physical punishment. I get that adrenaline's going, but like whatever. I thought it was a little on the nose with like some of the things, like the speech we talked about earlier.
You made us this way. Yeah.
Right. And then even like the whole mannequin setup thing was a little bit on the nose. I don't think anyone had kind of the charisma that Pluto had in the original one.
Is that the guy, the bald guy? Yep. He was like at the horror.
Yeah, I don't think anyone had kind of like that malignant, like, je ne sais quoi that he had. So they couldn't recapture that. So that's, like whatever. One of the things that I'm always on the lookout for horror movies, because one of the things that critics love to nail horror movies for is bad acting. And this was a strong cast. Like, they were really good.
Yeah, no one was bad.
So, right, no, exactly. So the only thing I didn't like about the cast setup was I thought that the younger kid was a little weak.
Yeah.
Like, after, I don't even know how he's related to him. It's grandpa, pop, father, whoever is, when he...
Dad.
Dad who burns on the thing. And the glasses guy's like, "Where are you going?" And he's like, "I'm gonna go kill those motherfuckers." He's waving his thing in the air. Yeah. He was like I was watching like.
Yeah, he was also like 15 though, or something like that. So
I get that, but it was.
I thought the same thing though. Like I'm with you, so I'm like trying to like justify it. You know.
No, it was fine.
But like I agree, like that was the weirdest part. That's the one part where I took note. Like
yeah, he like that was a thing, like whatever.
And then I guess scene to act probably.
And then the only other thing that I felt like might have been weak was that I felt the gore parts were pretty inventive, but there was, so like, here's an example. Vanessa Shaw's character seemed like probably the smartest character in the movie, right? So this is just a question of like blocking and tackling when you're making a movie, right? So like that scene where she fights back and she takes a screwdriver and she stabs the guy in the knee. He's holding the gun to the baby, right? And then he shoots the mom, right? And then she stabs him in the knee. She takes the screwdriver and she like turns it. She's like, I got your knee. And he takes the gun in slow motion. He's like lining it up on her head, like doing whatever. And she's like staring up at the gun, seeing it coming. She's like, I got your knee. Like, what human being watches a gun move in slow motion?
Lori from Halloween would have went one to the knee, one to the belly,
right, exactly.
One to the chest. She would have worked her way up.
Yeah, it's gonna sound weird, but it's almost like bad choreography to me. In that, like, it took me out of the moment because I was like, she's too smart for that.
They wanted her to be the guy that like wounds him, but like,
well, they wanted an excuse for the shot because the shot was he shoots her in the head, which was gory. But then they have this great dramatic shot on the gun where the smoke's coming out of the end of it, and it's like a 3D almost shot on the barrel. And they wanted that shot. Like, that character couldn't live. If she lived, they wouldn't get that shot. Right? Yeah. So I felt like...
Oh, and they did the thing, films don't do this as much anymore. But like when someone gets shot, they go flying 30 feet. They shoot the grandma with the fucking revolver.
Oh my god, dude!
She fucking flings to the back of the fucking RV.
She took 4 hand grenades to the chest.
that kind of shit takes me out.
That was a total thing. But I gotta say, one of the things that I thought was amazing. Like, so the biggest complaint ever from horror fans of horror movies is they aren't scary, right? So there are like things that happen in horror movies, and there are things that happen in non-horror movies that are super scary. One of the scariest scenes I've ever seen in a horror movie is the coin toss scene in No Country for Old Men, right? Because your life hangs on a random flip. You have a 50-50 chance of walking out of here, right? So if I was interpreting what was happening in this movie right, the dogs get out of the RV at the gas station. One of them wanders into the gas station. The guy who's running the gas station, he's like, I want out of this. I don't want to be any part of this killing anymore, like whatever. So he gave them fuel, and they were just about to go on their way. They were literally going to follow the map and just go and live their lives. And the dog wandered into the room, and the gas station attendant comes to the room and goes, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "My dog came in here. I'm sorry." And then she leaves with her dog. And he looks down and he sees the purse that has the crap in it from the person that just got killed from another family, because they showed the picture, the couple, right? And he thinks to himself, I think that maybe she knows something. Maybe if they get away, they're going to go call the cops and be like, there's this random, gas station with like stolen purses in it, like whatever. And he goes up to their window of their car and he knocks on it and he goes, "Yeah, if you guys want to save yourself a couple hours, turn left over here. Turn left at the floor."
I think that was a greed thing. I think
if you watch it carefully, like
maybe he had that thought.
I think that the reason he did that was he thought, because I don't think he was on their side. He took a shotgun at the beginning of the movie, went out and he goes, "Jupiter's one of the mutants," and he went to the mine and he heard something scrittling and he was like, "I got some buckshot for you, Jupiter." He's like, "I don't want to be part of this anymore. I don't want to be part of this anymore. I can't do this anymore." I mean, he kills himself later because he doesn't want to be part of it anymore, right? But I think they were going to go on their way and be just fine and live long, happy lives, except for their dog randomly got out of their RV and she chased the dog in and saw something she shouldn't have seen. And he decided, I got to add them to the pile of people who die. And I find that scary as shit. And if that's what actually happened in this movie, I think that's the scariest thing in this movie.
Yeah.
Right?
That guy kind of...
So is that he just decided who lives and who dies.
Yeah.
Based on like, if your dog didn't get out of the car, you'd be alive. Now I could be totally wrong, but to me, that was like, people are like, are horror movies scary or not scary? Like there can be scenes that are scary, but the concept of you roll up to a gas station because you need gas. Your dog does something that no one could predict. And next thing you know, your whole family's die and you get burned on a tree because of one random preventable like thing. I find that scary as shit. Like if that's what happened there, then
I think that's what happened.
Then that's scary as shit.
I didn't know that, but I think it was greed. I think he looked at them pearls. He was like, "That's the thing, though. If they had brought him like 30 cars, like robbed 30 people of like all of their belongings, he was still like he should have been able to look at them and be like, well, my livelihood hasn't really increased, so this is kind of a bum gig." I haven't gotten a raise in 30 years.
No, totally. He felt like it was a bum gig because all that shit just kind of accumulates. You don't
he didn't go like sell the pearls or something.
Right. Look at him. His teeth were terrible. He was chewing the same cigar for the whole fucking movie.
He's like, I can't go back into the city looking like this.
Right. Like it was all lose, no win for this guy. So like, I get that part, but I think they did a really good job of one of the things that's interesting in horror movies is I think he's one of the worst characters in it because he's complicit in all the bad things that happen. But there's a scene of him staring out his window at the gas station, adjusting the blinds, trying to figure out while shit moves in the background, whether he's being stalked or not. And the same thing happens in the RV later, where Vanessa Shaw's looking out of the blinds of the window, trying to figure out what's that flash of light, what's happening out there. Like the good people and this asshole are sort of in the same position.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really well done. I don't know if it was entirely purposeful, but I thought they did a good job of putting almost everyone in this movie in a no-win situation.
Yeah. The thing that I loved most about it, and I wrote it down, was my note just says, "Love how fuck you the movie is."
Totally.
Well,
that's what I was saying about the R-rated versus PG-13.
Yeah, like that scene in the RV, like when he kills the mom and both moms, like the grandma and the mom, like it just felt like it reminded me of like someone trying to write like a Quentin Tarantino scene. Like that's how that felt to me, and I liked it. Like not to say that's not like a bad thing.
No,
like I watched it.
No, that was like Outdoors Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, and I was like, this is good. I like this. I like this scene. I love how like it's just like we don't give a fuck. Like we're gonna fuck with her, kill her,
Yep.
put a gun to the baby's head, and see you in the next scene. That's what I loved about the movie, and that's like I felt like the guy's fucking Roger or Roper's review of like it's just nasty.
No.
I liked it. I liked the nasty.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's be honest here, because there's a ton of movies that I can think of, like Serbian film, where it's nasty for the sake of nasty.
Yeah.
That I hate, right? So like I felt like if you're gonna because this was almost a dark comedy, right? I mean, fucking American flag sticking out of people and like
when they ran,
I was waiting for Toby Keith to show up.
When they ran after the RV, the one thing the guy pulls is the American flag, like out of the thing,
right,
and he runs off.
Totally.
I really like that.
And he's like, she stuck me. She stuck like yeah, exactly. I mean, this was almost a black comedy. So there's a different thing going into that, and that's one thing. And then the other thing is it's sort of refreshing in, you watch a Friday the 13th movie, and here's what happens, right? So like you're running, Jason's walking, right? And then next thing you know, Jason is somewhere where he shouldn't be because he shouldn't have gotten there that fast, but he's there. And then all of a sudden you're surprised and you have no chance, and then he kills you, right? In this one, in the gas station scene, while you're not looking, they're stealing shit out of your car.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the trailer scene, when they want to go into the trailer and fuck with you, they take someone of yours that they kidnapped that they could have killed but didn't. They kept him alive. They carted him on a mining cart to a tree and set him on fire as a diversion, so you'd run that way while they fucked with you over here. Yeah. I mean, there's strategy happening here. Right?
Yeah,
so
they were smart.
There's not a lot of strategy that happens from villains in horror films on this medium level. They're either like 7 Kevin Spacey level geniuses, or Hannibal Lecters, or they don't have strategy at all.
Yeah.
This was like medium strategy.
This is a medium strategy, right in the middle of the road. Where would you rate the film?
Yeah, honestly, it's
the 75 is that?
I think it's a solid 72.
That's what I was thinking. The 72, 73.
Because I would put it a little lower, except for it's hard for me to put a movie in the 60 window when I liked it more the second time I watched it than the first. I feel like I have to give it, like I feel like I felt like it was a 68, but I'm like, oh my God, like I liked you more this time, so I gotta like give you like that's extra credit.
And I'm glad like they killed the smart people in the film.
Yes.
Or like the people who were making right decisions, just because like they didn't have plot armor. Where it was just
that's
like,
exactly.
it's like, oh, you're the smart one, so we can kill you and we don't give a fuck.
Where do you put it? Number one.
I think 72.
72.
I think
oh my God, we agreed.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking in between 70, it was below 75, above 71, like in that area.
Totally.
So that's where I would.
But this is one of those movies where, if I'm being honest, I wouldn't. There are other movies where if someone came up to me and I was like, Exorcist 3 is a 90% movie, and they're like, no, it's 70, I would like throw down with them. I'm like that. If someone came up to me and goes, Hills Have Eyes is a 65% movie to me, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm putting it here, but I'm not going to fight over it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I enjoyed it. And I knew going in, I just wanted to see some people in the hills, kill some people and have fun. And that's everything that I got.
Yeah.
In the film.
And The Hills Have Eyes.
And The Hills Have Eyes, which I still love that title. That's probably like my favorite title of any horror film.
I know. It's
so
good.
The Hills Have Eyes. So until next time, watch some more horror movies and stay scary.
Bye, guys.
Bye.